Because if you've got that regular feedback, you shouldn't have time for it to manifest itself into a huge problem, issue or challenge. And so the feedback during a 360 should almost be affirmational. Should only be an issue, or could only be an issue if you've left it 364 days, you do a 360 feedback and you haven't done those one-to-ones quickly enough. You haven't got those feedback loops in place.
Welcome to the How They Lead podcast, hosted by Benjamin Wade and Ben Stocken. This podcast is dedicated to exploring the world of high performance, showcasing examples of how individuals and teams can reach their full potential.
Together, they'll be inviting amazing guests who have defined or represented high performance in their own right, from world record breakers to individuals who have achieved first in their fields. The How They Lead podcast will showcase a diverse range of guests, each with their unique stories and insights to share. So join us as we challenge traditional ways of doing things, explore new ideas, methods and possibilities, and evolve the way people perform.
Hey mate, how you doing?
I'm really well. Busy.
Busy. Okay, good busy or
Really
manic
busy. It is flying. November, or nearly the end of November, nearly the end of the year. Where has that got?
I know. Tell me about it. And this is the first one of these that we've done, which is a new episode for us. We're doing a bit of like a state of leadership development and team performance development based on businesses we've spoken to, what we're seeing out there.
Bit of behind the scenes for our listeners.
So we're Friday the 17th of November. We're recording this. You had a busy week. What have you been up to?
Everything. Delivery with clients, phone calls. I don't think we've ever been busier. Well, 3 years we've been running, this must be the busiest month. My calendar's back to back. Matt's is, yours is. Yeah, client delivery and just speaking to so many people who they're either budgeting for next year, have come up with a load of budget they need to spend, that use it or lose it mentality, or they're realizing that in January, some of their team's employees are going to come back and think, hey, new year, new me, new job. So let's get some development planned, try and increase that engagement and definitely retention. Yeah, just upskilling across the board.
Agreed. I think that's probably one of the things that has been really prevalent. I think I've had 10, 12 discovery calls of new businesses this week that we haven't worked with. That's aside from the clients that we're working with this year who are thinking about plans for next year. We're booking those sessions in. One of the first things that's coming up front of mind is, it's been a tough year. Mm-hmm. There's no doubt about that across sectors that we work in, and obviously we work sector agnostically. People are seeing that we made a commitment at an owner director level to our teams that we would invest in them this year. Yeah. We've held back on that budget or held back on those actions, and actually there's an element of we need to make good on those promises, but also we need to be fit to go in 2024. Yeah. And then there's that interesting point you just made there about, we all know, and I think the majority of people who are listening to this podcast will know this, that that time after Boxing Day, that time after Christmas, coming into the new year, people are sat at home, everyone's eating the best bits out of the celebrations box, haven't they?
Nice, the Maltesers.
Yeah, the Maltesers. I'm keeping you away from the office celebrations box. Everyone's had the best chocolates, they're opening their presents, they've done the windy walks, and now they're thinking, wow, I'm going to go back in a few days. If they're in a sales role, they're thinking I'm starting at zero.
It's going to be difficult.
I'm starting at zero again, like the target, the expectation. If they're in an operations or support role, they're thinking, wow, we've got big projects, big deliverables that maybe were pushed back from 2023 into 2024. So
with the same skill set, more pressure, same skill set, higher targets. How do you do it?
And maybe less resource. Because, if we look at people's hiring patterns, I think, speaking to the businesses we're speaking to, and certainly the recruitment consultancies and exec search businesses we're speaking to, the majority of them are seeing an uptick now in terms of businesses resourcing, but there's a lot of fatigue out there.
Yeah, there is. And weirdly, everyone that I've spoken to has just done, or most people have just done their yearly engagement survey. Yeah. So off the back of that, they're now developing people, at least planning it in, because they can see that they've got unengaged employees. Yeah. But weirdly, it's only a snapshot. So they've allowed it 364 days to go past before measuring that engagement. Yeah. And we were only chatting about it yesterday, weren't we? What if you could have an ongoing engagement survey, or you did it more regularly and get a better snapshot? it's coming up to Christmas, everyone's in a happy mood, aren't they? They're probably going to be skewing that result.
Yeah, I get that, but you've then got survey fatigue, haven't you?
Yeah.
So you've got that real challenge between don't survey people too frequently, but also kind of get the pulse. I know, like, you can get engagement platforms with like pulse surveys, which are micro surveys every so often. But then what's the benefit of that smaller data set in terms of how you're gonna measure people? We're going off topic a bit because you were talking about, potentially people leave, don't they? Like the week 4 of January, I think is, one of the highest weeks in the year where typically people hand their notice in.
Blue Monday, Black Monday? There's definitely a Monday in there.
Blue Monday.
Is it Blue Monday?
What's Blue Monday?
First Monday back in January.
Blue Steel Monday.
No, that's just how we do it.
So I think, like Black Monday. Maybe it's Black Monday.
The first Monday back in January, everyone comes back, they've got goals, they've set it after New Year, they're like, new me, new year, let's go and find a new job.
Yeah.
It's definitely a start.
Completely. And I think, from back in my previous career working in the recruitment and staffing space, like we would definitely train our consultants to be like, right, between Christmas and New Year's, like get headhunting candidates because they're gonna be thinking about a move, and then you're putting those candidates into processes in January. So people then hand their notice in January, February. So from playing defense as a business, if you are going to be investing in your people, and you're going to be investing in your people in 2024, it would be crazy to not be planning it now and communicating that to your teams.
Yeah. Or here's one. I mean, on my list here, feedback culture. The last 3 clients I've spoken to, success for them in a year's time would to have a culture of feedback. And that directly links into what you were just saying, because it shouldn't be a shock when someone leaves. You've got your succession planning and that open conversation. You should be planning for people to leave. The worst thing is to get to December or Blue Monday, January, and have a raft of people walking out the door.
Yeah.
That surprise leaving is horrific for the budgets, for your profit, for revenue, for engagement, motivation, culture. So how do we increase that? And that's one of the questions that comes up time and time again. How do we get that feedback culture? So it is just open and honest conversations. I'm thinking of leaving, or I'm not being developed properly. How can you support me? How can I support the team to make sure that it's not surprised when people do?
But I don't think anyone would. I think very few people would right now in the economic climate. I know inflation's reduced, which is great news for the majority of people in terms of what that might do to interest rates and cost of living. But right now, reading posts on LinkedIn, reading commentary in the trade kind of HR and training articles that we read, and speaking to clients and working with their teams. Like we get that IV line into what's the sentiment. And I think there are very few people that would have the guts to say, do you know what? I'm having a wobble because, other businesses haven't been hiring as much. So there's less of that 21, 22, like, okay, fine. Like I'm not enjoying this. I'm going to go somewhere else where they're going to pay me 40% more. So coming back to that feedback culture piece, like my experience this week is 3 businesses, 2 businesses who have said to me, we have a great culture of affirmational feedback and praise. We are really good at giving praise to people. What we're not so good at is giving correctional or developmental praise. Yeah. And when I ask why a few times in that kind of, is it Socratic questioning? Like why?
Yeah.
When I ask
5 whys, the root cause analysis.
Yeah. So when I do that root cause analysis, and they probably think I'm being a bit annoying, actually, it's because, do you know what? We haven't done it regularly enough because we're worried about everyone's well-being, engagement. Everyone's under a lot of pressure. So we haven't wanted to give negative feedback. Mm-hmm. And that's an interesting concept in itself, because developmental feedback, if it's delivered in the right way and everyone understands how feedback works, and you create that culture of feedback, and intent is the main thing there. As long as everyone understands that my intent is to make you better, when I say to you, you don't need to wear your headphones when it's just me and you.
Then scenes would just come off the call.
Yeah. Then actually you're less likely to risk people leaving. So those was 2 businesses. The third business, we're talking about a a leadership program with them in 2024. Like, we're already working with them, and they're really concerned about how 360 feedback is going to land. Their people have never had 360 feedback before. It's going to be an anonymous, hopefully very raw, challenging, but safe process. And the conversations I'm having with the stakeholders right now are a bit concerned about how this is going to land with how people are going to be feeling early January.
Well, what are your thoughts then on that there shouldn't really be surprises when it comes to 360 feedback if you've got that feedback culture in place? Because if you've got that regular feedback, actually you shouldn't have time for it to manifest itself into a huge problem, issue or challenge, in theory.
Yeah.
And so the feedback during a 360 should almost be affirmational, or a pinpoint that something might be bubbling up under the surface. If you've got everything else in place, should only be an issue, or could only be an issue if you've left it 364 days, you do a 360 feedback and you haven't done those one-to-ones regularly enough. You haven't got those feedback loops in place, or that open and honest culture.
Yeah, and I hear what you're saying. I think if I put my not cynical hat, if I put my realist, like pragmatic hat on, then I don't think feedback should ever be a surprise. But I think often, like realistically, if you're going to give someone some critical, developmental, constructive feedback, whatever phrase we're using, if you're going to say to someone, you can be better at this, they're going to have a self-awareness moment.
Mm-hmm.
And that self-awareness moment is going to be awkward. When we give each other feedback, that we've already kind of talked about how we like to give each other feedback.
That's the important thing. We asked each other how we want to receive it and when.
When I gave you feedback and you said, no, I don't like it.
Well, yeah, true. And I did the same to you.
Yeah, exactly.
So we learn.
Well, we learn. But I think that's the important bit. It's actually understanding, like, what the hell is feedback? Why is feedback? What's the benefit of it? And then communicating that first. So I think there's a pave the way bit in terms of like, it's change management, isn't it? So like, how do we identify what the benefits are? What's going to draw people into giving, constructive feedback or praise? Because a lot of people are very bad at giving praise. I think giving specific, meaningful praise, like good job, is not good feedback. But like using us, for example, I now know that you like to receive. If there's something I want to give you feedback on, you like to receive it in advance, in a written form. Is that right?
Yeah, I think so. Or just tell me what's happened, but what and why, rather than you did this. Okay. And just leave it there.
Okay. We'll have that coaching session in a minute. But so I think when it comes down to it should never be a surprise, agreed. But I think everyone in the business, and really from an onboarding standpoint, this isn't just a leadership thing. Everyone who's onboarding the business needs to understand why feedback is important here, what it looks like, and how they can give and receive it. Because there is a skill set around receiving feedback, isn't there?
100% receiving, giving it that emotional state. What happens when you receive it, and how do you react if you react at all?
Yeah,
that
and if
emotional intelligence.
And if I go back to my 20s, which is a long time ago now, I was very bad at receiving feedback, and my like MO for feedback was deflect and defend, which was deflect, yes, but, and then defend. Here's the mitigation.
Is that because it's a sign of weakness and it's that flight or fight instinct? So you don't want to appear weak, especially in front of others as well. It's like when we video our calls and then hear them back amongst everyone else. It's that, it's a potential sign of weakness, or people think it's a sign of weakness when it shouldn't be. And if you know what the bigger picture is and the goal, that it's actually for the good of the team and the business and the individual, then feedback can be accepted far better. Yeah,
agreed. And I think that comes back down to like skill and will.
Mm-hmm.
So actually, if you go back to someone who, if everyone's listening, watching, and you think that's me, like I deflect and defend, then actually there's an understanding that needs to happen around like, what's the intent of the person giving you that feedback?
Yeah.
So the giver intent is first. If your intent is to vent and to get it off my chest, or because you had it coming, because you had it coming, then I need to take a time out and realize that that's not feedback. That's me like bit of dick effectively. And then on the other side, in terms of learning how to receive feedback, it's actually being prepared to think, well, the intent is coming to develop me. I'm about to hear some stuff that I'm not going to like, because there's going to be that self-awareness moment.
Yeah.
So how do I receive it? I need to be present. So, camera on if you're virtual. Hopefully it's face-to-face. Thank the person. Mm-hmm. But sincerely, you're not thanking them for calling you out for doing something wrong which you might disagree with.
Well, it's thank them because you're going to be better for it, both of you and the team.
I think it's thanking them for coming to you and being vulnerable to say, actually, there's something you can do better. And then for me, there's a timeout moment. Like I know when I get feedback, I need to receive it, be present, thank the person, but then take it away.
Yeah, assess it and think about what it is that you've just received.
Yeah,
and what you can do with it.
We went down a rabbit hole in feedback there, but I think it's important.
Well, and it's a top topic as well.
Yeah,
everyone's trying to create that feedback culture, and I think sort of Gen Z, millennials coming up through, it hasn't always been first and foremost. Like if you look at sort of 10 years ago, 15, 20 years ago, a feedback loop and a feedback culture wasn't prevalent as much as it should be or could be or needs to be now.
Yeah.
Unless you look at the high performing teams like the Red Arrows and your background as well. Whereas feedback it's first and foremost.
Well, it's the lifeblood of like forward momentum in terms of group dynamics, team performance, like completely. And look, I think because it's coming up time and time again, and we're asking, why behind it, we're able then to support those businesses to say, look, here's one very critical way that we can bring our experience, bring a diverse perspective into your business. And it's not you as a CEO or director or a head of, HR or people saying, well, this is the mandated kind of way you need to give feedback. We're working with businesses and able to plan in Q1 how, as part of their people development strategy, they're going to have a great 2024. Because if you can you've got like a clean line in the sand, haven't you? Like January, let's come back in, ways of working, new targets, new goals, everyone's fresh.
We communicate that, yep.
And if you can capture that wave, to be like, right, let's look at how we communicate with each other. That's feedback. And we've seen businesses we worked with this year who we did this with, in January, and you see like 2 exits from 2 clients, the values they were really happy with, other businesses, growing against the grain throughout this marketplace.
It is weird. And I think just thinking of all the examples where we've been asked to come in and support them with their development, especially communication feedback, it's usually because they haven't upskilled or they haven't had the opportunity to upskill the new emerging leaders or when they're onboarded, giving them the skills needed to be effective followers and leaders when they get promoted into a leadership position. Whereas the ones that have developed their new starters, emerging leaders, actually set up for success when they get to a position of leadership. And that links into one of our other clients who they didn't have the budget for us to come in and develop them at this point because the team were underperforming, but they're underperforming because they hadn't had the development. Yeah. So it's chicken and egg. And where do you get in and break that circle? It's a difficult one, a conundrum for some of our clients. But I think if we can look at, like you said, getting that people development plan in place from when they first come into the business, that's got to be setting them up for success. And then you get that feedback culture. They're skilled in communication as well and effective feedback delivery and receiving of.
Yeah, I mean, look, right now, anything businesses are doing to develop their people has to trickle down to the bottom line. And they need to be looking at the summit as well and the footpath and where they're going in terms of, vision and mission. Like we're realists and anything we do in terms of developing our people at West Peak, we know there's that tension between budgets, peak performance trickling down to the bottom line. And there's that need to be like the holistic view of, attraction, development, retention, engagement, well-being. Like that time and time again, just is demonstrated in research equals, yes, mid to long term improvements in performance and profitability, but also very short term. Like you and I both know from the maths we've done with people, you lose one person right now, you're looking at, at best case scenario, 1.5 to 2.5 times base salary as a cost. Like
which a lot of people don't know. That's horrific. When you sit down and run the figures, run the maths, that's a massive impact. But a quick win, as you just said, short-term quick wins and the long-term effect of that development.
So we're seeing at the moment big conversations around feedback and how that's a really important thing to develop and get right now. Concerns, well, people are almost rushing now to get stuff booked in with us because they have a backlog of people development they recognize they haven't done. And they're concerned about levers. They're concerned about how they're going to perform in 2024 without, the competitive advantage they get from developing their people.
We're also seeing a lot of clients come because they're forward thinking as well, and they see success in 24 and the growth, but they know that they aren't best placed for success. So actually those proactive clients are coming to us thinking, right, we need to sort it out now before 24 comes so that we're best placed for success. So yeah, we're seeing both of those actually.
Yeah, that's true. I mean, I think we booked a session in for January 2025 a couple of weeks ago.
Yeah, first one. Yeah.
Like that's forward thinking.
Correct.
I mean, it's part of a program, but that is forward thinking.
Yeah.
But do you know what? The power of that being communicated by the business to their people, long-term commitment, long-term investment. Like they're not saying, you're going to be involved in that necessarily, but they're saying, look, this is this program you can reach and buy in and aspire to.
Yeah.
Any other challenges that are coming up for you that you've seen in the market this week?
I think McKinsey released that report about the commercial impact to not developing they call it middle managers.
Yeah.
So actually, we concentrate on new starters, the onboarding phase, or even before they're on, and then the CEO, the C-suite, founders. But actually, there's like core level of middle to senior managers who are often not forgotten about, but they're so busy, they haven't got time for development. And actually, that's where we need to concentrate on. So I've seen a lot of interest in terms of the middle leaders, middle managers, actually being upskilled, reskilled, or just reset and refocused as well.
Yeah.
As part of succession planning, which has actually come up time and time again. We had a conversation yesterday about people starting to think more positively about succession planning.
Yeah.
Getting it out there in the open, going through development plans, which sort of a couple of years ago, actually succession planning was a bit taboo.
Yeah.
It's prevalent.
Completely. I think the tech clients who are working with like SaaS platforms and pure tech clients who are working with, they're beginning to go again. They're beginning to hire and grow. So we've got first-time founders, second-time founders, all of a sudden now to step away from leading a team to leading new leaders who are leading a team. So you've got that team leader level, emerging leader level. I'm a bit allergic to the phrase middle manager.
Yeah, but I've tried to try.
I know you tried. I know, but you're right. You're right. Like McKinsey talk about it, Gallup talk about, the reason why most people leave the business is because of bad management, and it's always aimed at that one above operator level, which is like team leader, emerging leader, or middle manager. And the reality is that I get it. Like businesses, whilst they're growing, have to identify someone who is really good.
Yep.
Is exceptional as an operator, as a salesperson, because they think everyone else they hire underneath them then has the benefit of osmosis learning. They can observe and replicate that person.
Yeah.
The danger is either that person who's promoted into that team leader position, their performance themselves drops, and or they just haven't got the skill set yet to be able to lead a contemporary workforce, post-COVID, hybrid, virtual face, whatever that may be. Like leadership has just changed. The way that you and I both facilitate the development of leaders. Like if I go back 5 years when I was in-house, like there's no way the leadership development programs I was running then would be as refined and as distinct towards how to lead in a 21st century post-COVID environment now.
Well, and also, as you just said, giving someone the skills, the tools and techniques and the process to lead well is great. But actually, the most important bit is what they do with that and the experience they gain. Going through the officers training, you get an intensive leadership package, but actually you really develop a skill set in the following 9 to 12 months, even before you start leading people. So being an effective follower and team player, but they give you the experiences to develop and nurture those tools and techniques.
Yeah.
So you've got a year's worth of learning and development before you actually go out and put it into practice. Whereas in commerce, you get the skill set, and that's why we support them for the following year. But actually, it's still difficult to go out with that skill set and then put it into practice.
Yeah, completely. And I think, in a similar way to the military, if I look at professional sport, people have often said to me, professional sport is very different because you train for 90% of the time and you play for 10% of the time. Like in business, you're playing for often 100% of the time.
Yep.
And how much personal development and upskilling is there? And there was one very famous sales trainer that I always remember him saying this. He's like, actually, for every hour of prospecting or sales work a salesperson should do, they should be doing an hour of call coaching, call review, preparation, etc. Because actually, the quality the quality is as important as the quantity. Now, we are never going to get a client that says to us, we really want to partner with you guys, and we want our leaders to go on a 9-month intensive leadership program. So, what we do as a reality is like we condense the most practical, fundamental things that are going to give them a competitive advantage where the rubber hits the road.
And then stick with it afterwards as well to ensure it's embedded and we can run through any challenges with them. Because that's the hard bit. Use it or lose it, I guess, as well. It's like a leadership muscle.
Yeah.
At the end of that, you need to start practicing it and getting those feedback loops in so you understand what's working, what isn't, and then we can help out. A leaving note then, 2 sectors that are booming for you in the last couple of weeks.
What, as in have the best leaders or
no,
engaging with us?
Surprising sectors that started engaging that you might not have had before.
Oh, great question. Great question. So look, tech.
Okay.
Like VC-backed or private equity tech businesses, 3 discovery calls this week with brand new businesses who've been referrals, which is fantastic, saying, actually, we're going for Series B or Series C next year, but we know we need to invest. So can we have a conversation about what that can look like? That's one. Second sector is biotech. It's tech again, but like life sciences. We're running a global leadership program next year for brand new client, which is going to be 1 face-to-face and then 1 fully virtual, to kind of manage time zones and travel and stuff. But there's more and more of that life science space that's really blossoming. And so that's been quite surprising, I think. What about you?
Really nice. Yeah, I think for me, like professional services, like law firms and finance businesses, we operated with one, supported one back at the beginning of the year. And since then, it's just opened up a whole new sector. I think there's definitely a shift in the way people are thinking in those sectors.
Yeah.
And then the other one, hospitality. Okay. I think after COVID, where it was so difficult to get people into the rooms, and it was a difficult time in terms of profitability and revenue. And now there must have been a shift, like a year or so later, where actually the hotels are back, the industry is thriving again, and they've got the budget to start developing their leaders, their GMs in each of the hotels. So yeah, I think hospitality inundated with the press, and then professional services from the law firms and finance.
It's such a diverse mix, and I think that's what we love, and it's what keeps us fresh and allows us to just harvest ideas from all those different sectors and then distill them down and bring the best bits to the clients that we get to work with, which is fantastic.
Well, it keeps us on our toes as well, because I mean, we obviously do a lot of research and learning outside of our client engagement, but then when we go and see a client, you do it this way, or you've trialed that way. So we're always, as you said, through osmosis, taking on new tools and techniques to add to each of our expertise as well, which keeps us at the forefront of what's going on in leadership, followership and teamwork. And we can take that and give it to other clients as well. Yeah. Or something in hospitality might be great advice for biotech and life sciences as well.
Yeah.
Love it.
Great. So first one of these done. We'll see how well this goes down. But I think we could have talked for hours. We've tried to keep it to like 30 minutes.
Yeah. Covered a lot though.
Covered a lot. So if this goes down well, we get some good feedback, we'll do another one of these sort of every month or so.
I think so. And if you'd like to hear from us as well, drop us a note, send us a topic, and we can dig down into it.
Brilliant.
See you next time.
See you, buddy. Thanks for joining us on the How They Lead podcast.
We hope you've enjoyed this episode and learned something new about the world of high performance.
If you have any feedback or suggestions for future episodes, please don't hesitate to reach out to us.
And don't forget to subscribe to the How They Lead podcast on your favourite platform so you never miss an episode.
Until next time, keep pushing yourself to reach your full potential and evolve the way you perform.
And remember, just because something has always been done a certain way doesn't mean doing it a new way can't work.